Hi folks, Josh Clark again. For this recording, I will be discussing several naturally occurring site conditions such as soil type, moisture, sun and wind, along with topography that are considered when designing a landscape. The first natural condition that I will highlight is a site's soil conditions. This is a brief overview, and we will be providing you with a more in-depth presentation on soils later in your training. Typically, soils are made up of a combination of clay, silt, and sand. Clay tends to have very fine particles, silt medium-sized particles, and sand large particles. Soil composition affects how well water infiltrates, how well plants absorb nutrients, and what kind of practices are appropriate to install. Different compositions fall into different hydrologic soil groupings and make for an easy way to think about a soil's infiltration rates. If you are in County GIS is a great tool to determine which soil group a site has. You may also conduct a percolation test on a site to determine how quickly water infiltrates. You will learn how to perform one of these tests later in your training. As you can see, each hydraulic group has a different type of infiltration, which is listed here. Keep in mind that WSA does not recommend specific BMPs such as rain gardens and bioretention in soils that are either C groups or D groups due to their poor infiltration rates. Reference WSA's Rainscaping Manual for more information. Soil moisture content is a key consideration when thinking about plant selection or the placement of BMPs. Different plants prefer or tolerate different levels of moisture. Also, if soils are consistently saturated with moisture, infiltration rates are slowed, which changes which BMPs might be appropriate to install. A site's water table is also important to consider. The water table is an underground boundary between the soil surface and the area where groundwater permanently saturates soils and rocks with water. You can think about this in the landscape as where running water or underground aquifers occur. Higher water tables affect infiltration rates and limits which kinds of BMPs are appropriate to install. The second natural site condition that I will highlight is a site's solar aspect or sunniness. You can get a general idea of a site's sunniness by looking at a map or GIS. For a typical building in the northern hemisphere, the northern, northeastern, and eastern sides will be shadier, where the southern, southwestern, and western sides will be sunnier. Keep in mind that a site's existing cover can change things quite a bit. A site that is in the middle of a forest will be shadier than one that is in the middle of a field. Also, in suburban and urban areas, buildings and other structures' shadows can affect site sunniness. You may hear full sun or shade thrown around quite a bit, but what does that actually mean? As a general rule, full sun areas have at least 6 hours of direct sunlight. Part sun areas have about 3 to 6 hours of direct sunlight. And shady or dappled areas tend to have, around 3 hours of sunlight. The third natural site condition that I will discuss is a site's windiness. Keep in mind that windy areas will dry out quickly and remain drier over time, which will affect your plant selection. It is important to remember that evergreen plants like protection from the wind, especially in the wintertime when they get the full brunt of it. Planting them where they have some protection, like from a structure or from a hill, or substituting them with wind-tolerant plants are important considerations. Also, selective pruning can be done to allow for wind to move more easily through the mass of an evergreen plant. This website, which is a direct link to the Maryland Extension Service, has a great starting point for pruning. The final natural site consideration I will discuss in this recording is the topography of a site. The slope of a site affects how water interacts with soil. Flatter areas stay wetter longer, where steeper areas may allow water to flow away faster, leaving them drier. Keep in mind that steeper areas may be more prone to erosion and may need to be stabilized with plant roots, stones, or other means. If you are dealing with a very steep sloped area, please consult with WSA on your project for the best practices and resources. This concludes this recording. As you investigate the natural conditions on a site and have questions, don't hesitate to let me know.